Hello everybody and welcome to the Ant Pod, where today we'll be talking about the 5 ant species you should keep from a beginner to an expert level. But before we go into today's topic, today we have Lynn and Jake on the pod. But we also have a special guest. Is that Tuga Ants out there? Say hello, Tuga.
Hello, what's up?
Welcome here to the podcast, Tuga. And for those who don't know who you are, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course, and thank you so much, guys, for having me. Hi, Jake, hi, Lynn. So, who am I? So, I'm some dude who lives in Switzerland that makes videos about ants and posts it on YouTube. So, that makes me a YouTuber, I think. No, I'm not a YouTuber. So I've been doing this ant stuff for a while now. I'm not an expert in any ways in this. The colonies that I know, let's say the species are mostly European species because those are the ones that I've kept along the years. And I've been doing this since I was, I don't know, maybe 8, maybe 9, maybe 10 years old. Just picking up queens on the floor and just outside and taking them in. So. All
right. And how long have you been making YouTube videos for?
Oh, so for that, I have a very small channel. So I've been making videos for about 8 months now. So the channel isn't even 1 year old. And it's getting a little bit of feedback, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really nice to start to see that you're growing as a creator and putting a little bit more effort into the videos. It gives a big payoff. But saying that, how many ant colonies are you currently keeping?
So here I'm staring at them right now. Oh, my precious. About, I would say, I counted them yesterday and I can't remember. I think it's 16 colonies, but not all different species, because I have one species here that's very kind to my heart, and Jake as well, I would say. And these girls are just everywhere in my house. So there are the Tetramorium, and I have about 5-6 colonies. Separated them to make different colonies to give away on the channel, by the way. So
yeah, I just saw that video. Really cool stuff that you're doing, this big giveaway. Like how many colonies are you giving away?
So I started with 3 because I was like, Antimatus, I don't know if you know him, he's a great guy. He sent me some of his nests to try out, and I like to give when it is given, So I mean, I was like, what can I do with this stuff? I'm not gonna sell it, of course not. So I just decided to give them away because I thought, you know what, just share the joy, because these ladies are incredible. And the giveaway has been made. They are already adopted by some of our friends at YouTube, or let's say it like that. And I still have 3 more that I would definitely give away, or something like that. 3 more test tubes that are just full of Tetramorium, like 300 ants inside, maybe 6 to 7 queens. So
yeah, it's really cool giving back to the hobby. That's definitely, I feel like at the moment we don't have that many giveaways. At one point we just have giveaways left, right, and center, but right now there isn't many. But would you then say the Tetramorium bicarinatums are your favorite ant species, or what's your favorite?
Mr. Alpha. My favorite ant species, I would have to say, is and this is frankly just my opinion, is ants in general. I really don't have a favorite, because they are so different. Every single species is so different, and they are so special in their kind of way. But if I really have to choose, man, I don't know, man. Oh,
you have to choose
Why
one.
do you ask me something like
you
that?
Have to choose
it's
one.
like asking me which is the child you love most. Yeah.
Saying that, which is the child? No.
I have to go with the Myrmicaria. Just for the drop tails. I mean, the Myrmicaria natalens is just for the architectural of the ant. Like the how can I say this? Yeah, thank you. The build, thank you. That's it. The build of I just found them so aggressive at one point, and so kind and so different. They look like spiders when they move around. They're just so different. And I would say the Myrmicaria, definitely.
It didn't sound that hard to pick a favorite. You definitely have a favorite child.
A little bit.
So final question before we get into the podcast or the topic of the podcast. Why have you started making videos? What is the goal with these YouTube videos?
Well, the goal is to make the channel as big as possible. I already told one YouTuber this, I'm coming for you. So no, I started doing this because I miss the content on YouTube, because I already saw every content there is to see. And at one point I was like, well, I should start making videos of this because there's more content. And I saw on the comments of other videos that it's always the same thing. When is the other video coming out, and when is the other stuff coming out? People always want more, and I think we have a lack of content and content quality of end content to watch, unfortunately, and that's why I decided to do this. And at first I was just like, it's just videos and just posting them, and then you start to editing, and it grows, and I'm having fun now making videos, So yeah,
that's the most important bit, having fun. But yeah, you're very right. It seemed like 2 years ago there was so many active content creators. We had videos left, right, and center, and now it's very quiet. not many creators.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying, So yeah.
So Tuga Ants, welcome here to the Ant Pod. This is actually episode 42. That's quite a lot. And with a short introduction to our guest of today, let's go into the topic of today, which is what ants you should get as a complete beginner, all the way up to an expert in only 5 colonies. So once again, number 1 colony is the first ant you should ever get. As a complete noob, the first ant colony. The second is, the second ant colony you should get. And then at the 3rd level, we hit a little bit more of a mediocre level, so it's not the beginner friendly, but it's not the expert. 4th is, of course, entering the hardcore to expert level. And number 5, a dream species, an expert species, the species you just dream about having. And that's the little list we'll be going through today. So you will hear from noob to complete expert in just 5 colonies. And of course, we are all from Europe, and I've personally taken the European ant keeping style of going completely exotic, pretty much, at least if we look at Danish as the only native ant I can get, then it's completely exotic, my list. But of course, depending on if you're American or where you're from, this list is not too relevant for you because, it may not be easy for you to acquire these ants. But Tuga Ants, the man of the hour, we shall start with you. What is the number 1 ant, the beginner species, the ultimate beginner species you've picked for today?
So a little disclaimer here before we go. I just want to say these are the species that I've worked with, the species I know, not species that I just heard of or something like that. So my number 1 colony, I don't have a favorite, but definitely is a drop tails. And let me just explain why. I know they don't require diapause and stuff like that. You probably need some cables or something, but you will get to have action from the start, and they are not that hard to keep. You just feed them, give them the sugar they need, and they do all the rest for themselves. They are very independent. And they are not skittish, at least not the queen I have here. You can check on her anytime. She won't run. So
you would recommend them to a complete beginner? And what was the species name again?
Myrmicaria natalensis. So the drop tails, and for the price also, they are not very expensive ants. They are like I don't know how much I paid for this queen, but I think about in the 40 euros, something like that. It is 40 euros to put on, but you will have medium fast growth species, not very fast, not very slow, and you can have multiple queens also. Then in the future, if you want to add a queen or something like that, you can. And I don't know, this is just my choice. Yeah. So you go, guys.
Yeah, that's why we have multiple here on the show. Just final question: how big are they? Like, are they small, medium, or large ants?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, they are. I would say medium species. Not like Componotus. Componotus are slim ants. These are robust ants. They are like tanks. They are built like they're very robust ants. I would say. Yeah. But they are polymorphic also, so they have major, super major, and stuff like that. I would compare their size like to a medium messer already. The smallest of them is like a medium messer barbarous.
All right, that's a very controversial number one beginner ant. I haven't heard that before. But of course, hiding in the background, we also have Lynn and Jake. And just starting with you, Lynn. First of all, hello, welcome once more to the podcast. What is your first ant species for any beginner you would recommend, and why?
I find this such a hard question to answer because I don't. My brain doesn't work like that. I don't recommend like that. I have like this sort of a list that I keep up with, like how old is the person that wants to keep ants? Are they kids? Do they live with their parents? Are the parents allowing the ants? Are the parents allowing feeder insects or not? All those things I usually think about when I recommend ants to people.
Yeah, it's very, very wisely said.
So I would say, like, if it's a kid, if it's about the kids, if they're not allowed feeder insects, I would go for Mesorbarbaris as the beginning species.
All right, interesting.
But if they are allowed feeder insects, I would probably go for Camponotus nicobarensis.
All right, exotic as well.
Or Floridanus if you're American.
All right, so it's good with having some American inputs as well. It's very European contra exotic, depending on whether they can have protein or not. Why does it make such a big difference?
Well, I went with Mesorbarbaris because Mesorbarbaris can actually live and survive with only seeds. So water and seeds, and that's all they need, water, seeds, and heat. So you're not like freaking out because you cannot buy feeder insects and stuff, because they can go without. And if you're having a hard-boiled egg or a pizza sandwich, if you have a piece of ham sandwich or a leftover chicken, you can give them that just as a treat. But you're not dependent on buying feeder insects for your colony. So that's great for youngsters that are not allowed to have feeder insects or living feeder insects or roaches in their freezer. And the Camponotus nicobarensis, well, if your parents allow you to have feeder insects as well, then I would recommend them because they're slightly larger. They look different from what we have in the country, like compared to most ants. So that if they escape, you can actually see them. You can grab them easily because they're not like, you won't right away kill them. Like Phaidole pallidula, you might accidentally squish by grabbing them. But the nicobarensis you can actually pick up if you have to. And while people may say that they grow insanely fast and you have to buy a lot of nests and everything, that's all dependent on the temperature that you keep them at and the amount of feeding that you do. If you only feed them once a week, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. No worries, no stress. Plus that you can craft your own nest if you're really into that. So you buy a brick of Etong, maybe your parents will help you, and you can create your own ant nest. They're not that picky. You can even use a box of dirt, cocoa fiber, done. They will move in. It's okay. They're gonna be fine.
They're definitely actually marked as beginner friendly. So you say this here is for kids. If they are not allowed to get live food, they'll go for the Mesor. If they're allowed to get live food or feeder insects, they can get the Nikos. What about adults then?
Well, I would say that depending if your wife or husband allows feeder insects, we go again.
same scenario.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if like, where do you live? If it's an apartment that does not allow pets or insects, or they're scared of roach infestations, whatever, that sort of thing. Yeah, I would still recommend the nicobarensis in most cases, just because they're hardy. They're good ants. I find them very, very rewarding as well. Good beginners.
And of course, the important thing as well with the ants from Tuga Ants, the droptails, they require heat. The nicobarensis require heat. The Mesorbarbaris is recommended to be heated, but they can also survive in room temperature as they are a little bit more European.
The nicobarensis can actually also survive on.
All ants can technically survive, but it's not ideal for them. Leafcutters won't survive for very long.
Well, if your house is 20 to 22 degrees, I think leafcutters might be fine.
Yeah. But if you want the ideal growth, it's recommended to heat all three species. And I'll go back to this rant once it's my turn. Because firstly, Jake, what is your the first beginner species anyone should get as a new ant keeper?
Well, I guess my list is, I've got to say, it's aimed at adults. But yeah, some of them sting, so maybe not kid friendly, but definitely Myrmica rubra. Like,
Oh,
they're just the best ants ever.
that's
And-
the first ant.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
not like just a queen though. Get a little colony, because just a queen, that would actually be quite. That's more experienced, that, but definitely like rubras, because they're just fabulous little girls, and they eat they'll just eat like kings. And they grow like really fast as well, and if you heat them too, they'll be growing nuts. But you don't have to heat them, and they're just brilliant little species, to be fair. And at this time of year, you can go out and literally just find like a whole colony under like a rock. If it's like a nice warm piece of stone and you know they live nearby, like it might be worth flipping it and maybe siphoning off a few ants. Yeah.
This is turning into be very interesting first species. So Jake, you've gone with. I don't think I've ever heard rubras as a first. I guess they're fairly simple once they get going, like you say. I won't say they have a little bit of requirements regarding the humidity because they need some sort of higher humidity. But other than that, they're like small but not Lasius niger. They're larger than Lasius niger, I would say. Wouldn't you agree, Jake?
Yeah, and they definitely develop a lot faster as well. Like they can floor it. Like I got one colony maybe 2.5 weeks ago, and they've literally pedaled to the metal, and they're already like popping out pupae now, and it's like probably by next week they'll have like fresh workers that have gone through the full development of the colony in maybe like 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, it's some impressive growth. I mean, I kept them in the past and I had a lot of fun with them, but I think I killed them with having the nest too dry. So that has been yours, guys, number one. Already now I feel like it's quite interesting that no one said Lasius niger. And spoiler alert, my number one is not Lasius niger either. I have joined Lynn a little bit, and I'm going with the Camponotus nicovorensis. And the main reason, like I've get a lot of adults contacting me saying, "Oh, my kid wants some ants. What should I get?" I've heard recommended Lasius niger and all of this, and because hibernation killed my first ant keeping experience, it killed me. I quit the hobby and returned a few months later once I realized, hang on, it's summer again. It killed me completely, and I've heard so many times that people completely lose interest once we have hibernation, and especially if you're a new ant keeper who doesn't have any experience. You don't want to put them away for half a year or, well, a few months and take them back because, well, you're not that into them yet. If you're really into them and have 10 species, well, you can put half of them in and take them out again. So that's the reason why I didn't recommend Lasius niger. And that's why I've gone with Camponotus nicovorensis. They are a medium-sized ant. They have majors once they start developing. You do need to heat them. Well, you do, maybe you don't, but to have optimal growth, you do need to heat them. That's a requirement that many adults actually get a little bit scared about. Oh my god, the electric bill will go crazy once you put a heating cable in. No, it won't. You won't feel it. Just turn on the oven twice a week and you won't feel a difference. So I would definitely recommend buy a cheap heat cable, put a heat cable under the front of the test tube if you just get a queen, and you're off to go. They are medium-sized, meaning for kids or for adults, they're easier to observe than something like Lasius niger, and they grow fast. They're just very cool. As Lynn also said, you can also control their diet. You don't need to feed them protein, boost them all the way to 10,000 workers. You can't just manage it. And also, they don't require hibernation, so they have some sort of diapause, but that's not too technical podcast. So overall, that's my number one. I'm curious, just to go around the table. Tuga, why didn't you pick Lasius niger?
Well, because I was like, I was gonna leave them to the end, like honorary mention. Lasius niger, of course, is the first species I had, and most of kids that I know, and kids now adults, of course, had from like first species. Messer also, but I was trying to go for a little bit of more spiciness, That's why I chose the droptails. That's the only reason, because of course Lasius and Messer are for youngsters. Let's say that's the best thing you can give them. But the problem I have with Lasius is they are just very slow, and the kids lose interest, and you sometimes you forget about them, and so that's why I didn't choose Lasius or Messer, just to spice a bit. So yeah, there you go.
All right. What about you, Lynn? Why didn't you choose Messer?
Lasius.
Oh yeah, sorry, Lasius. Yeah, Lasius niger.
Well, I actually, when I first started out, I also caught 2 Lasius niger colonies, and I actually failed both of my Lasius niger colonies, and it made me so sad because I could not figure out where did I go wrong, what happened, and you completely stress out over these ants that you can find everywhere. They might be saying as beginner species because they're everywhere, but in care-wise, yeah, of course they grow relatively, and then hibernation, okay, that sucks because they're gone. People try to push them through the hibernation unsuccessfully because that doesn't work that way. So you're gonna miss them for at least 3 months every year. Most beginners that I've seen often like Lasius niger, I'm not sure what they're doing, but then they're entering the second or third year with their colony, and it's still inside a test tube. And I don't know how they manage to do that, but they don't get them to grow correctly. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Either they buy like 20 species at once, which is also not surprising, but then they lose like the oversight and they stop caring about their Lasius niger. But if you actually manage to take care of a Lasius niger colony successfully, they're gonna be big in 3 years. They're going to be very big in 3 years. Much like Camponotus nicobarensis, they're not slow growing. They're rather fast if taken care of correctly. Of course, the first year is slow. The second year can be slow, but the third year, or well, the third season, it's not really the third year because the third year comes after that. But the third summer, they're going to fly. And when they fly, they're going to try to escape because they really want their protein. So they're going to try escaping. And if you have a budget situation or anything, they will escape.
Jake, do you have anything extra to add, or do you have? Yeah, why didn't you pick Lasius niger?
They're just quite basic ants. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're also, I don't know, they're just not as interesting as other ones. Like their social structure is pretty basic.
Yeah, it's funny because we're so lucky today that we can sit here and say all of this crazy stuff, because a few years ago it was just Lasius niger nothing almost, in Europe at least.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Before we go on to the second species and we take this whole round once again, so before we move on to the second colony, Lee Ants made a comment on my YouTube channel which I feel sums it up quite nice. You can't recommend a specific species because, well, it's different from all the way around the world, but you can pick a common species that's native to your region, and it should be fairly easy to start off with. Like you say, Jake gone with the Ruba. We've all quite talked about why we shouldn't pick Lasius, but again, we're in Europe and we are a lot more lucky than people from all the way around the world. But with that, that's been the first ant any beginner should ever have. So to just recap, we have the drop-tail ants. What were their specific name again?
The Myrmicaria natalensis drop-tails, yeah.
Myrmicaria natalensis, that's a crazy name.
The African ants come from Kenya, or at least mine does. So, yeah.
All right, and we had Camponotus nicobarensis, or metabarbarus, and finally Myrmicaria. All right, on to the second ant you should ever get. This is still where you're quite a beginner, but still you have kept one colony. You know what this is all about. It's likely a few weeks to a few months after you get the first ant colony. And Tuga, what is the second ant you should get as a complete noob?
So on my list I put, once again, colonies I work with. So I really do think a Camponotus in the second place would be great because they are big ants and you can see them beautifully, and they are not, it depends on the Camponotus of course, but they're not that aggressive, I think. So I went with the most aggressive of them that I know, the Barbaricus, Camponotus barbaricus, because they grow bit fast. They're not slow growers, I would say, because at least mine don't. And yeah, they are pretty chill. They, aggressive. How can I say this? They are aggressive, but not at the same time. If you give them something to eat, they are going to be aggressive towards it, or towards you. But they, you can pretty much observe them very well. They move around all day, all night, and yeah, they're pretty cool. I love them. So Camponotus barbaricus, that's my choice.
Are they exotic to Europe?
No, sorry about that. Yeah, Camponotus barbaricus are from Europe, so Spain, mostly. They like the heat. They come from North Africa, also from Morocco and some regions like that, from Malta, from some. I think that there are some in almost to Asia, but they are like heat lovers. They love to be around. I think it's 25 to 26, maybe more. I'm not sure, but yeah. They are definitely not exotic here in Europe because they are from here, but they still need the heat. So yeah.
Alrighty. I don't know too much about them, so I can't make all of these high detailed questions. But Lynn, what is your colony number 2?
Ooh, well, if you have Camponotus nicobrensis, get Messer barbarus. If you have Messer barbarus, get Nicobarensis.
No way. My number two is the same. Okay, so why would, if you say you are adult and you have gone with the Nikos first, why would you then recommend the Messer?
Because they're completely different than the Camponotus nicobrensis. They gather the seeds. Well, that's pretty much the biggest bonus. The seeds, the behavior around seeds is so interesting and fascinating, and of course they have all these different sizes. They're just a really fun ant to have, in my opinion. And they're really poor climbers, so you can just keep them in an easy tub because they will just fall off.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, for my colony, I had a big colony, and except when the products failed, they never escaped. I kept the setup without a lid. They just couldn't get out. It's very, very friendly. But of course, they are once again. They are European. Well, aren't they also from Africa? I think they may also be from Africa. But yeah, most of them, like the common mesobarbarus you buy in stores, are most likely all European. And like Lynn said, they're easy to take care of, and it's a great second species, which I'll say again in a second. I always spoiled that. But Jake, what is your number 2?
Well, you're never going to guess this one. It is Mesobarbarus. Yeah.
No way!
Yeah. Like, my thinking is like, you got your rubras and they don't need any heat, but I don't know, Mesobarbarus, they're a great species to like learn how to heat your ants, if you get what I mean. So yeah, and once you got them, you'll have like a heating setup, which is kind of like the gateway to even more ants.
I mean, you're so right. I mean, it's perfect if you go with rubras first. I personally took the Messer as my second because if you're a new keeper, you go with my Nikos first. You have like the Nikos that are quite fast growing. You will get the mages eventually, and you can give them a lot of protein, and they can just explode. But like Lynn also said, the Messer are such a different way of ant keeping because of the whole seeds. They also get majors, and they also are very polymorphic and very cool to observe. They're very cute, the majors. They're bigger than the Nikos, I believe, the majors. They're actually quite large once you get the super majors or the really big majors. But yeah, a great second colony because they're so different to the Nikos. And yet both of them, like Lynn also said, they're both equally beginner friendly because they're the perfect second species. I'm really surprised that we went almost 3 out of 4 just went for the Messer here.
I have to say that it was number 2 on my list 2 days ago. So you have it.
so why did you remove them? How did you?
Well, because I was like, I'm gonna tell about it in the honorable mention with the laziest, because that's always the first one we get, as youngsters. And the list I've made is more for like Lynn said before, and very well, this. Adults and young adults, that's not the same thing with the ants. And so the list I've made here is probably more for adults.
I think as we are approaching, I don't do any of you guys have any more honorable mentions as a number 2? Starting with you, Jake. Do you have as honorable number 2? Just yes, no.
No, it's been Mesobarbarus, pretty solid. It's one of the few species when I was trying to think up this list that I thought like they're going to be on it, like number 2 after rubras, because that wasn't even a question in my head. It was like, yeah.
That's why I had to really dial down. Like I was going crazy already at number 2, and I talked with Wakushi, and he's like, dude, you can't go number 2 with that. I'm like, oh yeah, you're probably right. So, Lynn, do you have any honorable mentions before we move on at number 2?
No, because I pushed my honorable mention to number 3. So we're going to get to those in a second.
Oh, all right. Well, with that, Tuga, if you don't have any honorable mentions, well, you have already said your honorable mentions, so we're now entering the mediocre level. This is probably around, if we're taking it very slow, this antkeeper have been here for a year now. and they've kept the first two colonies are growing very nicely. We may also have with a complete expert already who's really just, I want all the ants, who may only have been keeping ants for a few months. But again, we are entering this where under any circumstances, it's not really for children. It's not really where we need the parents above maintaining the colony, because at this point, well, the child should probably be responsible enough to take care of the ants themselves. At least that's what I've gone with my list. But yeah, Tuga, what is your third and mediocre colony to get?
So third mediocre, I would say, and for the beauty of the ants, the size of the ants, and definitely for an ant keeper that has patience, and that's for me. That's why it's number 3 and not below, because they are very, very slow. It's the Camponotus liniperda. I mean, the ants, they are very difficult ants, I know, and they have their own personalities. But yeah, I would have to put them in number 3 because for me it's a must-have. I think the biggest European ant, if I'm not mistaken, at least the queen is. So they are beautiful, beautiful ants. I mean, just yeah. So that's my number 3.
So what about them growing very slow?
Yeah, because they I don't know. At least mine. I don't know why. They are very, very slow slow growers, I would say, because the cocoons take time to burst from larvae to cocoon. The same thing. The queen doesn't lay that many eggs at a time. You know, that's not like I don't want to say the name of the species, but not like other species that's eggs everywhere. She just lays some here, some there when she wants, and she's very, very, very polite, you know. So yeah.
You've gone with a gentle, safe giant as a number 3. What about you, Lynn? What is your third and first mediocre colony to get?
Well, now I was like, oh, yeah, no, the way you explained it about them already being in a year in the ant keeping.
Well, I don't know.
That made me mess up.
I feel like some ant keepers, like we've seen recently, I've seen ant keepers just coming and getting leaf cutters the first year of ant keeping, like as a third colony almost. So
I mean,
it's just, yeah. I mean, it's so yeah. Either way, you don't have to have the same mentality as what I just explained before. But what is your number 3 species?
I would say either go the stinging route or the Phaidoli route. Because Phaidoli, Paludula, for example, they're also, if you compare them to Mesobarbarus and Nicobarensis, they're tiny and completely different as well. So they will give you the experience you need with small species, or you go Manica or Myrmica, and then if it's on the story that the people are taking care of the ants themselves, get stung a bit, learn the lessons about ants not always being able to be on your ants in case of emergencies, which is the biggest mistake that I made, because I was adding a tube to my Myrmica setup, and one was on my hand and was, oh, it's actually pretty docile, and then it stung. Don't trust your ants. Because they started escaping, because of course I freaked out because of the stinging, and then even more came onto my hands and I got stung everywhere. Oh, nightmares.
So just a quick, when I said a year in ant keeping, do you mean Ruba should be, or Ruba, Manica, or Phaidoli should be way sooner, or?
Well, I got Phaidoli Paludula as my third or second species. Third species. I got Phaidoli Paludula as my third species within like 3 months or something. People will often like buy everything at once because they don't have the patience. That's a bit of the downside of the ant hobby, sadly, which Phaidoli makes up for because of their fast growth and small interesting behaviors as well. So I think on number 3 I would say a Phaidoli, yeah.
So you are Phaidoli is number 3 then? Is that Phaidoli Pieli or
Paludula?
Paludula, yes, as a number 3. All right, interesting. We've already had the gentle giants, the tinies, and Jake, what is your number 3?
I've gone for Manica rubida because I think they're kind of intermediate, and if you confound them, it's like well nice to have a little colony. They're basically like giant ruberas as well, and after a year, you'd probably be a little bit hooked on the ruberas. So you'd be thinking, oh, can I get different sized ones? And it's like, yeah, you can get giant ruberas, which are Manica rubida. Yeah, it's not scientific or anything, but they're basically giant Myrmica
I'm not gonna lie, like I don't have Manica on my list, but I really considered because they are really, really active colonies. Like my colony's not even a year old at this point, but they have like 50 to 100 workers, and they just have so much brood. It's insane. Yeah, I definitely can see why you would go down this route. I don't know if you guys have anything to add here with the Manica.
I had two. They both died. So.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, like Jake said, if you can, the founding is definitely the struggle. That's why we had the whole Manica experiment 2 years in a row, and maybe even a third. In my experience, I've done quite simple. I've fed them twice a week, protein twice and sugar once, and I've just always heated them a little bit. And I've not had both my colonies have been successful. My third one died when I put them in a dirt setup straight away, and that's not recommended. Yeah, Jake, how many colonies have you founded at this stage, and do you have any recommendations of how you should do it?
Well, I got me YouTube guide on my site for the actual like how to do the Manica, and I know most of it is like they love solid ceilings in their nest. So yeah, if they've got like a soil setup, put rocks in it and things like that. I think so far I've founded 3 colonies, although one of them did die after it got to about maybe 10, 15 workers. But I still count. I founded them. Yeah. The queen just decided to die later on.
All right. Well, my number 3, I've gone down the almost Manica route because I thought like I had my Nikos as my number 1, so that's the fast, big growing species. They're probably doing quite well at this point. We have the stable, a lot slower Mesobarbara, still very interesting, different colors. And I thought, just like you two, stinging species as number 3. But this is where I go a little bit above, because I thought Manicas are cool. But personally, I've put Harpignathus venatus as my number 3.
I did think about putting them on my list, but then I was like, no, because they got one massive flaw, I thought.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. I don't know whether to say it now. They do their live prey and stuff. But if you want that, you could just go and get a spider. Like.
Oh, wow. No, we can't have such Renee thoughts in here. Let's just turn that off right now. Let's just turn that. Okay. But yeah, all right. I see your point. Well, to be honest, the reason I've gone with Harpignathus venatus is actually both because they can handle live food like small crickets and small mealworms and stuff like that. But also you can also pre-kill and feed them pre-killed food. I'm doing both right now, and they actually accept both. Which is quite unexpected for many people, but I just kind of force feed them pre-killed food by putting it almost inside the nest, and then they take it and they eat it and they put it outside. So Harpignathus, they are so different compared to, again, if we look at my list, the Nikos and the Nikos and the Messer, because they have the eyesight, they can follow you. They have a very slow growth rate compared to the 2 others, well, almost like Mesobarbarus the first few years or the first year. But because they have this crazy eyesight and you can feed them live stuff, it's really opening the hobby up to all of these special species you can get. And I feel like as a third species, they're still quite hardy. I mean, I've kept 3. Well, I got a colony with a dead queen. Then I tried to merge them with another queen. Don't merge them in my experience. But I've got a second colony, and they perform so well. I put them in the naturalistic dirt setup, and now I've got a third colony. Well, I've only got 2 because the first one died, but I've got a third one now, and they're just founding right now. Well, they're founding with I've got them queen with a few workers, but they've laid so many eggs, and I really love it because they're quite expert species looking, and yet the requirements and the keeping is fairly simple. Just heat them up and feed them live or feed them pre-killed twice a week, and you're good to go. I don't know, Tuga, do you have any honorable mentions as a number 3?
Yeah, I had 2 here. I had like Lynn said, and I had the Palidula because I already had 2 colonies, and very difficult to keep. In my opinion, I mean, they grow very fast, but mine didn't, and probably for my fault, they end up dying. And the Prenelopis nitens. I don't know if you heard of them. They are the fake honeypots. Winter ants. I don't know if they are called that. Yeah, I know them as the fake honeypots from the honeypots from Europe, I would say.
Yeah, we have there's the European honeypots.
Yeah, that one. So those would be my honorable mentions, just because of the difficulty that I had personally with them. So yeah.
Well, what about you, Lynn? Do you have any honorable mentions as a number 3?
Formica.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Or
Fusca, Rufibarbus, whatever the others are, like the non-slaving ones.
all right. What about you, Lynn? Any Jake?
Jake.
Any any honorable mentions at level 3?
Well, you might as well be asking Lynn because it's Formica Fusca as well.
Yeah, I knew that.
I
I knew
like
that. As soon as
Formica.
Lynn said it.
I love them.
As soon as Lynn said it, I thought
They're
okay.
great.
All right. Well, it's time to turn the table back to Tuga because now we're expert. Now we're entering the hard to expert level. I mean, I think we're still like in a hard. I don't want to say what time of year this is because some ant keepers will do this within a few months and others will wait a long time. A lot depending on the age and the maturity of the ant keeper. But Tuga, what would you say is the first hard/expert species, number 4, to get?
Well, I think you would be surprised with this one, but I love them. I keep them. I have kept them for a while now. I started to understand these girls a little bit, and I definitely don't think this is a beginner species. It's definitely not. So I have to put the Bicatenatum number 4, the Tetramorium, just because of the inbreed, the growth, and the way you have to keep them. If you don't farm them, if you don't take out test tubes, they just keep on growing. And that's why by the way, escape artists, they just nothing keeps them inside. So definitely my number 4 is the Bicatenatum. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely why I said, like you say, escape artist. It's definitely also my experience, and that's really bad when they have inbreeding, meaning there's queens, like the queens are just out feeding. So if the queens are then starting to escape, you can really have a bad ant infestation in your house. So definitely respect that, and I think it's good that we haven't talked about this species before now. I was thinking about putting them on my list and a lot sooner, and that's when I realized, hang on, no.
Because the thing is, you think of them, they are so cute, they are so nice, and they are not that good, they're aggressive, they're just so, welcoming, but they are definitely not a beginner species. You can think that by looking at them. Oh, they're just so cool, no, definitely not, because they will grow everywhere. So yeah,
100% with that. Like, yeah, that's why I didn't. I was like, oh, do I put them in as like number 1 or 2 because you can share them and stuff? And it was like, no, because you can accidentally release them, sort of thing, and trouble and all that sort of junk.
Inbreeding is not something to be messed around with, not regarding when they escape. Lynn, what is your number 4?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna go Camponotus singularis.
All right, it's a different one.
They're not that hard, but they are. If you're just starting out at expert levels, they might be interesting because they're usually dug up. And you will have a hard time trying to figure out why they're not growing correctly at the beginning when you get them, just because the colony might be damaged from being dug up. So that's a nice way, a nice thing to fix while you're wondering about getting expert species anyway.
They're also an extremely large ant compared to any of the others we've mentioned on the list. I mean, they're beautiful giants, and definitely almost all colonies you see online, if they have workers, nope, they've been dug up.
You finally start going as well. It's so rewarding when they just have brood everywhere, and they go, and they and also, which have been learned recently, they are from Stein actually. They are nomadic species, which means that they will put trash in their nest usually, and they will want to relocate to a new nest after a while.
That's not something you want to hear as an ant keeper. Springtails, ladies and gentlemen. Let's introduce springtails.
I might need those.
That's an interesting number 4. I mean, I see your points. Once again, we are at this point out of all the ants need heat. I think we pretty much jumped to that already on like number 2, number 1, number 2. But yeah, these ants do require heat once again because they are exotic if you're living in Europe. Also they have huge majors once they have majors, which there's a chance they'll get from the get-go because there's a big chance they've been dug up. Jake, what is your number 4?
Atomexicana I've gone for because They're just the coolest little leaf cutters out there. You could have anything, but you can't beat atta because they're quite solid for like a leaf cutter species, and they definitely like grow well. And I think by this stage you'd probably be able to keep them at the right temperature and all of that. And that's basically it with them. So they're kind of loads of fun, minimum effort. All you got to do is keep an eye on the conditions, and they're just great. Well, they're not much work for most people as well, but unless it's you, Oliver. But if you don't make them explode,
I decided to overfeed them a lot.
yeah, just don't go too crazy on the feeding unless you have a zoo nearby or like our zoo, and you'll be okay with them. You could have them as well, like as your second or third, I think personally, but it's just money at this point. So it's like you want to kind of have a little bit of faith that you're not just gonna kind of waste like 100 odd pounds on a queen, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are a very expensive ant, and it's also expensive products. Now, I'm just going to join the talk here because my number 4 is also Atta Mexicana, gone with the exact same thing. And I'm gonna counter argument you with putting them at number 2 or 3. Because they're easy to keep. They're easier than many other ants as long as you have the heat and humidity under control. Now, if you are beginning, we are at an advanced ant level, or an advanced ant keeper level at this stage. So I mean, I went for the expensive move to heat my entire room. But last podcast, episode 41, we talked all about VIVs, incubators, heated boxes. And at this stage, if you have such a thing, well, get your Atta Mexicana, put them in a VIV. If you buy something like, if you buy a pre-made leaf cutter setup, especially, I'm gonna say this like a proper advertisement, because it's the only stuff I really know for certain works, especially the Wakushi leaf cutter pot. Put them in the VIV. They could technically be number 1. They're very simple to keep, but well, they're very expensive and you need to have the VIV. So that's why I put mine at number 4. But they're a leaf cutter ant. They're insanely cool compared to any other ants. At least the first few months you keep them, then you realize, oh, there's many cool ants out there that don't cut leaf. It's not amazing. There's a lot of cool ants, that's what I want to say. But yeah, I put mine as number 4 because, well, you've got your Nikos, you're fast growing, you've got your Mesos, they're also starting to be quite big. You've got your crazy eye-killing Venators. And now you have your leaf cutters that are so different from all of the other ants that I just had to put them at number 4. And also, I felt like, well, maybe you guys, Lynn and Tuga, will put them at number 5. But the reason I didn't put them at number 5 is because, like I said before, with the Wakushi leaf cutter pots out there and with VIVs becoming more and more common, I definitely don't see them as an expert species anymore. As long as you get the humidity and temperature under control, as long as you buy a fully made setup, that is the expensive bit. That's why it's not for beginners, because you need to invest them some money. But if you have that under control, they're insanely easy. Just feed them leaves and just clean it, and then you just have so much joy. That's the reason I put them at number 4 at least. Okay, Tuga, any honorable mentions at number 4?
At number 4, I put the my Arpies, because I don't really the Arpagnatos, the Venators, because I don't really know them that well, and for the slow growing, sometimes the prices can go up also. For me, I think that would be the honorable mention. Yeah.
Right. What about you, Lynn? Any honorable mentions?
Aerodimyrmex purpurus.
Wow.
Meat ants.
That's not a bad honorable mention.
Well, that might be also put at 5 because they are crazy. But if you can manage your big Nicobarensis and your big Mesobarbarus, and at that time big Phaidoli, you will be fine managing a big Aerodimyrmex, probably. Or you get eaten alive. Have fun.
Yeah, either way, should be fine, right? What about you, Jake? Do you have any honorable mentions at number 4?
Ooh, I did have one. It's on the end of my tongue. Pogonomyrmex barbatus. That's it.
Wow.
They're tricky, but they're simple at the same time. Like, they're seed eaters, but they are quite tricky, it seems. I've managed to kill mine, so I'm trying again. But
so why have you chosen to talk about them?
Well, because they're kind of great little ants, and they're kind of Mesobarbarus, but like the shiny version, almost, of like, yeah, these are hardcore, and they sting you, and they'll like take your arm off, like.
They have quite a painful sting, I've been led to believe.
Yeah, from what I hear. I haven't been stung yet, thankfully.
All right. Well, we have hit the dream species, the expert species, the hardest species. Well, not the hardest, but the expert species, the one you've been dreaming of ever since you started ant keeping. Tuga, what is your number 5, your dream species?
So I have 2 of them. Can I go with 2?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay with y'all. Okay. So this one, it's my dream species. The ant. This is why I've started this route of ant keeping. And why they're number 5? I think they are. I'm just gonna say like that. I think they are gonna be a pretty difficult ants for what I'm accustomed with. The price, everything
We
around
need to
it.
know the ant now, Tuga. I can't handle this.
The price and everything around that, and that you can see on my channel. So the other one is
Wait,
the
what is
Polyrhacus
it?
furcata.
Hang on, what was the first one?
Well, I don't have them yet, so I would thought to say, like this.
Clickbait.
So I was.
Damn it.
You have to
You can
subscribe
see them-
to find out.
You can see them. No, you don't have to subscribe. Just come check out my channel, and you will see them. I will receive them in 2 weeks, and there will gonna be a different video on the channel also. But the number 5, the other one, I'm gonna take it's Polyrhacus furcata. Why? Just because they are called. Are you ready for this? The secret ants. I've searched everywhere for info on these ladies, and I can't find anything. At least. In the languages that I know of, so I'm definitely going to go with them. They are not that expensive, but they are not very easy to keep. They are really not easy to keep. So they are weaver ants. They come from these ones come from South Asia, I think. And that's why they are number 5, because I just don't have any info on them.
They're almost like they're secret.
Yeah, and that's why they're called secret ants. That's awesome. I thought this was awesome. This is why I took him in to to understand and to maybe probably make videos on them so people can keep them also at home. So yeah.
Alrighty, Lynn, what is your number 5?
I would put another one to put on expert. I would actually put leafcutters on expert because healing might be easy at that point, but go ahead and try figure out how to cool them down when it's summer and 36 degrees in your house, because the fungus growers are not gonna like that.
That's a plot twist. That's very true. They are gonna die if you cook them, and it's very easy to cook them in the summer.
I'm already scared.
So would you? Yeah. So you would put your leaf cutters as a number 5?
Yeah, and maybe if you're spending money anyway, Mermacia, of course. Yeah.
Jake, we still need to hear your dream species, nor your expert species, your number 5. Go ahead.
I think the greatest of all ants, and like, I shouldn't even say this because getting hold of them is really hard, and I don't want other people to be trying to buy them as well, but I've got Polyrhacus proxima / and also like Ypsilon. So like different species. There's 2 ants, like, but they're both like golden girls. It's just the Ypsilon has slightly bigger or like way better barbs on her back than the Proxima. I think they're both very tricky to keep because for some reason they can all just die. But you will be rewarded with like walking golden nuggets, and they're just you can just look at them for so long. It's like looking into like fire.
Yeah, I mean, I got Proxima at one point. Sadly, she passed away, but she was definitely a golden girl. Is there anything more you want to say regarding your number 5, Jake?
Not too much really, as long as you've got the right setup for them too. They're not overly difficult, I don't think. They're just hard, I guess. And I think they're slightly related to Camponotus as well. So they could be a really easy ant to keep, but I think I've got Camponotus curse, so could be rubbing off on the Polyrhacus.
I did not expect to have 2 Polyrhacus at number 5. But Lynn, just going back to you, apparently you have another number 5. What's that?
They are known commonly as the golden armor ants, and they are Dacaton Armigarian.
Ah, yeah. I mean, they are dream species for so many.
They are beautiful.
But yeah, they're very expensive, those can't remember the name.
Dacaton.
Dacaton.
Yeah.
I'll put it in here. So, there.
Yeah. It doesn't help that I can read it. It's crazy
Golden
words.
armor ants. Let's go that route.
They are very beautiful and also very expensive, and also can have multiple queens, polygynous. They are very cool and are not seen kept by many ant keepers, so that's a very good expert hardcore species you've gone with there, Lynn. Finally, I'm gonna have some honorable mentions this time for once, but finally I've gone with Mimisia. It's if we look at my entire list, I've gone like start off nice and simple Nikos, they're doing great, then you got the Messer, now you got the Harps, and you got the Leaf Cutters. And since I started, like, Leaf Cutters and Mimisia have been my dream species since I began. And today that I've kept Leaf Cutters and I've kept, I'm keeping Mimisia. The Mimisia are just the extended Harpignathus. Like, they are just Harpignathus times 10. They're very similar in how they behave, but they're just insanely cool. Like, you can get so many different varieties, like Brevinoda, Nigroceps, Nigrocincta, Fulvipes. There's exactly, I was just about, there's so many of these different species, and they are at a very costly price, most of these, and there's a big failure rate out there. But also, since the VIF game have started to really pick up, there's been seen a lot of successful colonies now, so stable temperatures may just be the success or the reason behind a lot of success. Either way, I've picked them as my number 5, simply because, like, from keeping Brevinoda now, I still don't have the first worker, but still are just so cool. And my Fulvipes queen, like, she's just insanely active, running all the way around, and hopefully I'll get some jack jumpers within not too long. And they're also just looking at other people, insanely active and very cool. Tuga Ants, do you have any honorable mentions? Because I sure have a few.
Well, all the ants that died by my hands, I would say like that. All the queens that I don't know in the past, and I mean there was a lot. I don't know what else to be patient. If I have to say something to the youngsters, be patient with your ants. That's the most important thing, because every ant is difficult when you're not patient with them.
Very true. Very true words. Lynn, do you have any honorable mentions?
Last is Niger. No, just kidding.
Starting all over, man. Now I'm getting my Nigers. Like, this is time. This is the time. I'm an expert now. Let's get the Nigers.
I would also say the Myrmecia, because I've also only just now started peeking into the Myrmecia window, and they're really expensive, so you want to be prepared for them before you start getting them.
What about you, Jake? Any honorable mentions for number 5?
Well, not fully for number 5, but in all, the Polyrhacus almata, they're like a good middle ant. Like, gotta give them their credit. They're good ants, they are.
I mean, to be honest, there's so many ants, like the green weavers, the Smeridina.
Oh, good one.
They could be on the list. I mean, there's so many lovely ants we could put on the list. I think some of the honorable mentions I could put at number 5 is some species like you said, the meat ants, Lynn. Because they have the massive size. Also, the Carabera diversa. I feel like they're a good number 4, number 5, because they can grow to massive size and they still require a fair bit of work. Personally, I didn't put them up there because I don't think when you are at number 5, you need a complete unique ant. And the Carabera diversa are very cool, but they're also just small, fast growing with big majors. But that's why I chose the Mimisia, because they're so unique and so Mimisia. But yeah, that's another honorable mention. But at this stage, I feel like we've gone through the list. So just to cap it all off, Lynn, can you say your number 1 to number 5 list in a row?
Camponotus nicobarensis, Messerbabarus, Phaidoli pallidula. What did I have? What, number 4?
Singularis.
Yeah, Singularis.
Oh yeah, the Singularis, and then the leafcutters.
Alrighty. Tuga, from 1 to 5, what is your list?
So, number 1, Myrmicaria natalensis, aka Droptails. Number 2, the Camponotus barbaricus, aka Camponotus barbaricus. Number 3, I would say the Liniperda. Number 4, Camponotus Liniperda. Number 4, the Tetramorium bicarnatum. And number 5, the the Polyrarchy furcata.
Alrighty. And Jake, your 1 to 5 list?
We got Myrmica ruberus, Messobarbarus, Manica rubida, then Atomexicana, and then either or Polyrhacus proxima or Ypsilon. And either. You can't have both of them because that'd be hogging too many.
All right, and my 1 to 5. I mean, I've told that so many times through this podcast, but yeah, Campanodus nigrivrensis, Mesobarbarus, Harpignathus venatus, Arda mexicana, and finally Myrmecia nigroceps, a great beginner Myrmecia. A lot of you keep them like I did, but generally, and yeah, I feel like, I mean, going all over this, we've had Vidoli, Manica, Messer, Polyrachus, Tetromorium. We've had a great list here, and I feel like, except for all three of us taking Mesobarbarus, I feel like we've actually had a lot of different species, which is brilliant. With that, it's actually time to move on to the final part of the podcast, the little outro. And yeah, we are trying to bring back the weekly updates. So Tuga, this is of course a little segment that if you may not be aware, we're just talking about the latest news that have happened this week in our ant room. And do you have any news that has happened this week?
Oh, I have some news. Yeah, so we split up the Tetromorium colony this week. I took in 7 founding colonies. I would say it's founding, but they, like 300 workers. But yeah, from them we have some new equipment to film the ants now. So that's a big change for me because I can see them more clearly, and ordered some new ants. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened this week. Yeah.
Exciting times, it sounds like. Looking forward to seeing the new quality. I've already got a little sneak peek of what you're working with. Lynn, what is your weekly update?
Well, if you focus on Peggy, the Myrmecia, she's doing really well. She still has 7 larvae at this point, and she's really active on getting them fed. So every time I enter the ant room and turn on the light, she's outside in the outworld looking if I'm gonna feed her or not. So she's insane. And
That's so cool.
Sunday was the expo, and I picked up my leaf cutters.
Oh, so you're officially a leaf cutter ant keeper as well.
Yeah, I got the Acromyrmex lundis, and they are very small. I did not expect them to be that small, but they're small. So,
in size,
and I'm already
or
freaking out.
in colony size or in numbers?
Worker size.
All right. So how big are they like?
Well, they're bigger than Polydula. I think because mine are nanitics. I think like my mature Lasius niger, so a little bit mature Lasius niger size.
How do they like cut leaves when they're so little? Do they just kind of mush it, or?
I don't know. I've not seen them cut leaves yet. They're in. I don't have a proper setup yet. So my they're inside a fifth, inside of a little Tupperware thingy, and then inside of like what you buy the feeder insects. They come in this little plastic box thingy. They're inside of that as well. So I have double, and then I hydrate because there's a bunch of paper towels inside of that feeder insect thingy, and I hydrate that extra. So it keeps the humidity really high. So I have no clue if they're cutting or not.
Damn, that's something to look back at next week. This sure sounds interesting. Jake, what is your weekly update in your ant room?
So William and his sisters in the Mesobarbarus, they're still doing really well. And I do need to make an update video for them. Hopefully I'll have it done by the weekend. And I'm also getting some new ants. Tomorrow they should arrive. Some Tuga Ants barbatus.
Nice.
Oh!
But this time I've got like a load of workers as well, which is kind of cheating, but I kind of figure, well, I founded them once and I don't want to have to refound them again and then go from there. I've just kind of jumped over that bit and cheated. But
I don't feel like it's cheating. There's so many people, there's so many, you need to do this. No, what you need to do is have a colony you enjoy and you can watch grow. That's what matters. I would any day of the year go for a colony with workers to avoid having that founding stage because I've lost so many colonies there. So I wouldn't call it cheating. I would call it enjoying ant keeping and not wasting money.
Yeah, true. Although I do like the kind of that, I don't know, when you've founded like a really hard one and it's like, oh yeah, nice.
I mean, if I get my Brevinota workers, that's gonna be the biggest win of my life. I've lost the first generation of larvae and the second generation, and I don't know if it's the third I lost or if it's this third I have now that's at Cocoon. But damn, that's been a long ride. And coming over to Mr. Hollifer here, my weekly news would be that my Fulvipest queen have laid an egg. So my Myrmecia Fulvipest queen has officially laid an egg. It's one of the I only have 2 queens now that haven't laid an egg from all of the 7 colonies I got a few weeks back. So that is amazing news. And hopefully I'll also be getting some Australian ants quite soon. Nothing official yet. I don't have a package on the way, but should be fairly soon, 2 weeks time if everything goes to plan. But with that, you've reached the end of the Ant Pod. And Tuga, our guest of today, where can we find you? Can we find you on Instagram, on Discord? Where can we find you, and what do we need to search for?
So you can find me on YouTube, because most of the work I do with the ants is on YouTube. So YouTube, just type in Tuga Ants. Follow us, join us on Discord. We are getting a little bit of how can I say, just people joining already, and it's been pretty cool. We just this small community of people just talk about ants and stuff like that. So yeah, YouTube and Discord for now. I will be trying to make like a Facebook page, Instagram web. I have to see, but for now, YouTube and Discord. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been great having you here on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Enjoyed following your progress, especially as your creator. I really enjoyed that you've started editing your videos, gone away from my sloppy extra channel style to a little bit more of an proper videos. And I'm very harsh when I say that, but to all of the guys out there, I think it's really worth the time editing a little bit, because it makes the video a lot more enjoyable. And as far as I can see from the views, Tuga, it's the views are already picking up.
Yeah, it's even for me, it's just I'm like, what the hell is going on? So yeah, it's cool, and you have a lot of fun editing. So I do. So yeah, it's cool.
Exactly. Of course, to all of those who don't edit, like myself on my extra channel, I don't blame you. But if you have the spare time and energy, I would recommend you go for that edits. Either way, thank you very much for joining, Tuga. Hang on, we've not even gone through our final words, guys. Yeah, Tuga, do we have some final words about this entire list we've gone through today?
No, I think we said it all. I think yeah.
That's what we need to hear to make this podcast not too long. No,
Yeah.
kidding. Lynn, do you have any final words about the list we've gone through today?
Today was fun. And if you want to waste money, buy Dynamirax Gigas.
Very well.
Number 5.
I was about to say, is that number 2 or?
Number 1, of course.
Yeah, the first hand you should get is the biggest one. Jake, final words about today's topic.
Like we've totally neglected any micro species, like proper micro species today.
Because we don't like them,
they are great. Like once you're kind of medium, like definitely worth looking into the tiny little ants.
Can you say some species?
You got your Plagiolepsis pygmea and Cardioclondia obscura, Brachymyrmex patagonia, or something like that. Solenopsis fugax as well. They're pretty good. And yeah, that's a few of them.
All right. So yeah, finally my final words, and I just want to say, yeah, once again it's been a joy having you on, Tuga, and I think we've gone through. Yeah, no worries. You'll probably come back in the future. Well, if you have some questions for Tuga, we'll write them down and probably come back in the future. It's been great having you here. And of course, here at the end.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a joyful. I want the Ant Pod here to be a lot more focused around the viewers and the active community members. So if there's an active, if there's a YouTuber or something you would like us to interview, let us know in the comments. I think we had a lot of fun today. It's really funny hearing what other people think. But with that, I want to say thank you for listening in. The Ant Pod releases new episodes every Wednesday, and if there's a topic you would like to hear about, send a message to the Ant Pod Instagram. And with that, you'll hear more from us at the Ant Pod next week.